With your leave, Mr.
General, Mr. Geoffrey Cox.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the Honourable Lady knows, the Supreme Court gave judgment on this issue yesterday. And that judgment sets out the definitive and final legal position on the advice given to Her Majesty on the prorogation of Parliament. The government's legal view during the case was set out and argued fully before the Supreme Court. The hearing was streamed live, and the government's written case was and is available on the Supreme Court website. I took a close interest in the case. I oversaw the government's team of counsel, and I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that if every time I lost a case I was called upon to resign, I probably would never have had a practice. And the government accepts the judgment and accepts that it lost the case. And at all times, the government acted in good faith and in the belief that its approach was both lawful and constitutional. These are complex matters on which senior and distinguished lawyers will disagree. And the divisional court, led by the Lord Chief Justice, as well as Lord Doherty in the Outer House of Scotland, agreed with the government's position. But we were disappointed that in the end the Supreme Court took a different view. And of course, we respect the judgment of the court. Given the Supreme Court's judgment, in legal terms, the matter is settled. And as the Honourable Lady will know, I am bound by the long-standing convention that the views of the law officers are not disclosed outside the government without their consent. However, I will consider over the coming days whether the public interest might require a greater disclosure of the advice given to the government on this subject. I am unable to give an undertaking or a promise to the Honourable Lady at this point, but the matter is under consideration.
Joanna Cherry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also took a close interest in the case, and let me start by assuring the Attorney General that I'm not going to call for his resignation yet. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was a very special day for Scots law and the Scottish legal tradition, going back to the declaration of Arbroath that the government is not above the law. Following in the footsteps of Scotland's Supreme Court, the UK Supreme Court asserted the rule of law, the separation of powers, and they restored democracy. And it's worth emphasising that their decision was unanimous, as was the decision of Scotland's Supreme Court, unanimous, chaired by Scotland's most senior judge, the Lord President of the Court of Session. Both of these courts unanimously found that the decision to advise Her Majesty to prorogue Parliament was unlawful, void and of no effect. But the question, Mr. Speaker, I'm interested in is how did it come to pass that this was ever allowed to happen? Redacted documents lodged with the Scottish Court confirmed the suspicion that this was a plan cooked up in Number 10 by the Prime Minister and his special advisers. But what I want to ask about is documents that mysteriously found their way into the public domain yesterday afternoon, when an unredacted version of one of the documents lodged with the Scottish Court found its way to Sky News and revealed that the Attorney General had said that the advice to prorogue was lawful, and anyone who said otherwise was doing so for political reasons. Now, what I want to ask the Attorney General specifically is this. I'm sure, knowing him, that his advice was considerably more detailed and nuanced than the 3 sentences that appear in that unredacted document. Can he tell us whether a legal opinion was made available to the Prime Minister or the Cabinet? The Right Honourable Member for Hastings and Rye has said that when she was in the Cabinet Ministers requested to see the advice, but it wasn't handed over. Is that correct? And can he tell us what was given to the PM, if not to the Cabinet? Because, Mr Speaker, many of us believe that the Attorney-General is being offered up as a fall guy for the Prime Minister's botched plans. So does he not agree with me that to release the advice in its entirety will help him avoid being the scapegoat for a plan that was dreamed up by the Prime Minister and his advisers? And will he give the undertaking that he has hinted that he's thinking of giving today?
I'm extremely grateful for the Honourable Lady's solicitousness and kindness for my welfare. And I am particularly attracted by the tempting prospect that the Honourable Lady dangles before me. But she will know that I am obliged by the Convention to say that I am not permitted to disclose the advice that I may or may not have given to the Government. But I repeat, the matter is under consideration.